Hello, everyone. Welcome to MCI USA's first ever LinkedIn live stream. We are so excited to have you join us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Emily Brown, Associate Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy with MCI USA. I have just a few housekeeping items before we dive into the exciting presentation that we have for you today. First, if you don't already have our MCI USA LinkedIn page open in another tab, navigate there right now as we have a poll for you to participate in shortly. Just be sure to navigate right back to the presentation afterwards. Um, Second, this session is both live on LinkedIn and is also being recorded. So we'll send out the link to our registrants after the session. Live stream. So would love to engage and interact with all of you throughout the presentation. Please use the chat to ask questions and share comments. You can start us off by letting us know where you're joining from today. So as you're doing that, I'm going to now hand it over to my amazing colleague, Brittany Shoul. Brittany, take us away.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. We are super excited to talk about our favorite topic, which is sales and revenue. When we think about the work that we're delivering right now, our sales team is super focused on outperforming and overperforming our 2022 revenue goals. And so I'm joined here with Kelly and Todd, who are two superstar sales managers on our team. And if we look across our sales team, right now we're focused on delivering over $20 million in advertising, sponsorship, and exhibit revenue. And as we think about overperforming, we want to keep today's session fast and fun and give you guys good tips and tricks and takeaways that you can take and use and apply today as you're working with and managing your teams. But before we get into it, I'd actually like to know where you guys are in terms of your revenue performance and where you're pacing for 2022. So let's do a super quick poll. I think you will see that live in LinkedIn. But what I really want to know is, where are you? Are you pacing ahead where you can look and say, I'm feeling pretty confident we've got a path to our number for 2022? Are you right on track where you're feeling pretty good, you've got a path to get there, but maybe need a little bit of help? Or are you at the spot in the year where you're like, oof, we've missed some numbers and I think we're a little bit behind? So how's everyone pacing so far this year?
So I see one person says they're ahead, so that's good. I think we need to give it a couple seconds just to let the streaming catch up.
Awesome. Well, guys, at the end of the day, with some of the content that we're going to be sharing today, whether you are ahead, whether you're behind, whether you're right on track, our goal today is to give you some actionable ideas and takeaways that can make an impact on the sales revenue that you're delivering. So let's get into it. The first thing that we want to talk about is what I think sounds simple in theory, which is to outperform your revenue goals. You actually have to have stuff to sell that people want to buy, right? Are you selling the stuff that people want to buy? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is I don't know, and sometimes the answer is maybe. It sounds simple, but it's not, right? To overperform on your sales numbers, you have to have strong products in the market. And if your products aren't performing and your customers aren't buying, you're not going to get to your number. And so if we think about some good tips and takeaways that you can use just relative to product, the most important thing is be nimble. As your sales team is on the phone and they're having conversations with their prospects and their customers, what are they hearing that people actually want to buy? And are there small changes that you can make to your product offerings that are going to help you sell more inventory and command a better price point for it? So here's a really good, quick and easy example. We work with an association where we were selling buyer's guide advertising. And the product that we were selling was logo placements in a buyer's guide for a very small price point, very high volume sale, small price point, a lot of work. And so we made just a quick change to say, rather than selling this high volume product at a low price point, let's change it up. Let's sell half page ads instead and command a higher price point and sell less inventory. And something that simple enabled us to already outperform the revenue that was delivered in 2021 by a slight change in product to listening to what customers want to buy and making a small change. However, when you're thinking about product changes, one of the things that I always love to think about is the juice worth the squeeze? Which is, if you're going to put in the time and energy and effort to make a change, are you going to make money? Or are you going to be spinning your wheels and coming up with new idea after new idea and not actually generating new revenue? And so, what I like to do in those cases is a little bit of math, because we as salespeople really love math. But you can make it quick and easy, right? If you are going to launch a new product, let's say it is a new e-newsletter, you're getting interest and feedback from your vendor and supplier community that they have an interest in reaching a subset of your audience. And so in theory, it sounds good to build out a new e-newsletter, generate some advertising revenue, maybe some subscription revenue, and get something up and running. Well, you can do some quick math. If I generate X amount of revenue and sell X amount of banner ads, it's Y net profit to my team. And if you do a little bit of that quick math, it might help you to decipher, is it worth launching a new product? Or are you just spinning your wheels, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And so all of that, right, relates to, are you selling what people want to buy? And so again, good tips and tricks and takeaways for today: being nimble and listening to your customers, thinking about if the juice is worth the squeeze, and then doing a little bit of this simple math to say, is there a new product that we could launch to outperform our goals? Which relates really nicely to math, which relates to money. So let's talk about money, Todd.
Yeah, the dollars, right? We're all looking for dollars. I know on the screen here, we've got a whole bunch of $1 bills. Not exactly what I want personally. I want some hundreds, but the ones might be all we can scratch and claw for right now. So what I want to talk about is a couple of major landscape shifts that we have seen across the media buying world that has really affected the way that we do our jobs and how we need to be nimble, to Brittany's point, to make sure that we are meeting our customers in the middle. The first biggest thing that we are seeing right now is that gone are the days where most of our suppliers are purchasing on annualized programs. They're booking this fall for a full comprehensive year-long plan in 2023, for example. We're looking at a whole lot more quarterly buys. If we're lucky, half-year buys, maybe even monthly buys, maybe even a la carte one individual ad unit buys. They've all been spurned in some way, shape, or form over the last 2 years. As you can imagine, they might have had their ad plans or their exhibit space pushed back a year, maybe even 2 years. They might have lost dollars. So they're being a little bit more cautious with how they're purchasing. What that means for us is that we really need to live in our metrics. We need to know what are our top performers, because we need to position those top performers to those suppliers so that we can get a Q2 buy, a Q3 buy, a Q4 buy. Ultimately, it could end up being beneficial to us that they're purchasing in small chunks, as long as we're really living in those metrics. The second piece of it, and it coincides with that, is just T's and C's are being a little bit more closely looked at than what they have been in the past. So we're getting a lot of questions about our payment plan. We're getting a lot of questions about cancellation clauses, getting a lot of questions as it relates to a force majeure if we're looking at event contracts. And so areas where we traditionally, as salespeople, we would push back pretty significantly to say, nope, the payment plan is what it is, or cancellation policy is what it is. We can't do that anymore. Certainly we have to work within reason, but we have to work within reason as to meet them in the middle as well to get where they need to go. The other piece of it is kind of on a more positive end is we've got a lot of customers that have traditionally only ever done events. They want to exhibit, they want to sponsor. That's all they ever want to do. They don't want to listen to anything else. Now they don't really have that luxury because we've got a little bit of volatility built into the events world. Maybe events not back yet. Maybe it's virtual and this company doesn't like virtual. We've got a little bit of shifting happening there. So we've got customers coming back saying, all right, I'm ready to listen about that webinar you've been trying to get in front of me, or I'm willing to listen about that custom content or that blog post or that e-newsletter, whatever it might be. These marketers really need leads right now. We all do, right? So they're coming to us and saying, what can you do to give us the most leads possible? So what this all means in any way, shape, or form is, now getting back to our points that are on the screen here, we got to make sure that we're understanding of the fact that it's okay to raise pricing. It's okay to reduce pricing. If we're living in our metrics and we understand that we've got an ad avenue that is just significantly outperforming what we would set the expectations for it to do, and if we're able to have limited inventory that we can preach or whatever it might be, there's nothing that says we've got to stick to that pricing that we set 12 months ago. Let's change it. Here we are March 9th. Let's go out to 15 or 20 top prospects and say, hey guys, as of April 1st, this price is changing. It's going up, and here's why it's going up. I'm able to grandfather you in at that lower rate if we move now, but as of April 1st, it's moving up. On the other side of the spectrum, we have to be okay with lowering the price as well. Maybe it's lowering the price across the board because we know we're just not performing at the level that we used to. Maybe it's a particular campaign that's running right now that we proactively go out to that advertiser and say, you know what, I'm going to offer you a discount or a make good. I don't feel like you're getting what we promised that you would get. As long as they feel invested or feel that you are invested in their success, that's when all of a sudden good things happen, because we want them to have a good return on their investment so that they come back, and they obviously want a good return as well. So some of the key things here we know to take away: be flexible, be nimble. Like Brittany said, that's going to be a key theme across this entire presentation. Be nimble in what we're doing here. We can't be rigid like we have in the past. It's okay to change pricing. You see companies like Uber and Ticketmaster doing surge pricing based upon demand. We're never going to fluctuate in that way, but know your demand and know your worth and change your pricing accordingly. It's okay to discount. Don't give away the farm though. Don't do a disservice to who it is that you're representing. Your audience is extremely valuable. It's okay to discount, but don't give stuff away just for the sake of giving stuff away and to get a sale. And then finally, again, we're going to end it with be flexible. The world is changing in every way, shape, and form. We've got to make sure that we're changing with it.
Thanks, Todd. One of the other things that we want to talk a lot about is, we've talked about what people want to buy. We've talked about being flexible, but we also need to talk about you can't sell that what you don't know you have, right? So we've got a picture of IKEA. IKEA is the inventory expert. They know everything in those warehouses down to the last nut and bolt. And they do a great job about selling it and positioning it. One of the things that is an easy first place to start, create an asset list. What are you selling? What do you want to sell? But what do you have in inventory to take to the market? From there also, as you're putting these, taking those assets, put them into different categories. What do you have high inventory of? What's medium? What's low? And then how do you position those in the market? Those opportunities, those products that have low inventory, don't be afraid to make it a FOMO situation and push it out there and create that urgency. Again, talking about Todd being flexible and being flexible in the market as those inventory items start to shift from you have a high inventory, medium inventory, and low inventory, start having those conversations. Push the fear of missing out. People want to make sure that they are positioning their companies. And even with those assets that you have that have a high inventory, start building packages. Put things into different packages. Create opportunities where those are an automatic build into whatever you're offering. So that way you're managing the inventory and you're being thoughtful in how you're selling it. Making sure you're pushing that inventory and making sure that you're snowballing that for those bigger buys. So again, make sure that you know what you have to have available. Make sure you're managing urgency and you're creating those opportunities and understanding inventory. And of course, make sure that you're building in those inventory or those items with high inventory into different packages and different ways to get them into the market.
Yep. All right, guys, so we talked about the tactical stuff. We've talked about product. We've talked about pricing. We've talked about inventory, right? Those are all of the tactical things that you can adjust and change relative to what you're taking out to market. But actually the most important thing is, how are you taking it out to market? So that actually gets us to the skills of your sales team, right? Do you have the skills to pay the bills? And also, like, bonus point in the LinkedIn chat, if anyone can like name this band, I feel like I should give it like 5 seconds. I'm like stalking my phone to see. Beastie Boys. So if you want to like pull up your YouTube and have a little like music while we go through this slide. I'm not going to be opposed to that. So does your sales team have the skills to pay the bills? We can look across our actual sales team and think about things like, man, it's been 2 years since we've been on site at a client event, or wow, all of the digital inventory that we've been able to sell and grow and develop has been awesome. And so it's really important for us to look at, do we have the sales skills to pay the bills? And so this is a really great place to slow down with your team. One, can your sales team present value, right? Can you do a quick role play with everyone on your sales team and say, give me your pitch on our association, give me your pitch on our audience, and slow down and make sure you're assessing some of that. Can you also do a little bit of a role play with your team on asking questions and doing a little bit of question development, right? How are they uncovering needs and goals and objectives within that particular prospect call to figure out, can the products and the pricing make sense? Can't get to that until you talk through actual sales skills and question development. And so I think a really important takeaway is, does your sales team have the skills that it takes to sell and present the opportunities so that you are in a good position to overperform those revenue goals by having the right people selling on your behalf? We can also think about skills related to upselling and cross-selling. Kelly and Todd made really great points just around things like, are there pricing changes that you want to make, right? Using something like surge pricing. Do you have a really good understanding of inventory? And if you do, then there may be opportunities to upsell and cross-sell through dynamic pricing and managing some of those inventory pieces. The other things that we're also seeing is something like a blue sky proposal, right? Working with some of your top level clients and saying something like, what if we could do it all? What if we could give you the moon, the stars, and the sky and put it all together in an amazing package for you to reach your goals for 2022? You might have some clients that have some budget available where they could bite at that for the rest of the year, or even do a Q3 or a Q4 investment. So I really do think getting back to basics of managing the skills of your sales team, coaching them up, slowing down on places that are critical to the work that you do around presenting value and pitching product can really help to make sure that you and your team outperform and overperform the revenue goals that you have set aside for 2022. And so we've talked about a few topics: product, pricing, inventory, sales skills. And our goal today was to give you good, actionable, fast tips and tricks and takeaways. And so I would love to hear from those that are joining our webinar today. Did we share with you something that you can use today, this week, this month, as you're working with your teams on generating revenue?
I'm sorry, the joys of being live. You can hear my dog prancing back and forth behind me. So apologies for that.
You can see him too. That's better.
You can see. Gotta love Kelly. Yeah, so our streaming right now is about 20 seconds behind our actual recording. So I will probably have a couple answers for you in a bit. But if you want to continue on with the presentation, and I'll come back on in just a minute.
Well, and while we're waiting there, I mean, to Brittany's point of going back to the basics, it's really interesting to think about. We as salespeople, we as sales managers, we as sales leaders, it's been anything but normal for us for the last 2 years as well, right? We've reworked a particular contract 5 times over. We've pivoted from in-person to virtual to hybrid, back to in-person, back to virtual. We're all over the place. So Brittany's point of getting back to the basics is really, it seems rudimentary when you think about it, but there's a real need to go back to what made me successful as a salesperson, what is going to make me successful as a salesperson, prospecting, finding the right contacts. Some of the real basics they haven't been getting done over the last couple of years because there's been so many other obstacles in our way, that I think that's a really, really crucial point, that we need to make sure that everybody is going back to those basics of what can ultimately make us successful.
Yeah, it's a great point, Todd. If I think back, it was probably in 2020, a colleague and myself actually presented a webinar also related to product development and doing a little bit of an assessment of where your individual products are on a bit of like a product continuum, right? Is it new and entering into the market? Is it stale and phasing out? And a lot of consumer brands do a little bit of that product analysis. And that's also a really good exercise to be doing right now too. We've had almost one whole quarter in the market for 2022, and what we'll call a somewhat normal start to 2022. It's a really great time to slow down and do a little bit of that product assessment, right? Am I selling what I thought I would be selling? Are my products performing well? Or do we need to do a little bit of strategic planning? And I say that because it's March 9th. We are going to blink and it's going to be June. And we're going to start talking about 2023. And then we're going to blink again and it will be 2023. And so if you're not thinking a little bit farther out as to how you continue to grow and develop your offerings in the marketplace, you're going to keep missing the boat. So it's another important point. Emily, are we hearing anything? Top takeaways from today?
Not yet. I wonder if we can direct people to follow up. I know your information's on the next slide.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know that.
So Todd and Kelly and myself, we love to talk about sales. We love to talk about revenue. We're salespeople at heart, so we also just love to talk in general. But certainly feel free to reach out to us. You know, if you've got a revenue challenge within your association or organization that you're experiencing and you just want to chat through some ideas, we love to do that. We also love to talk about sales success and what's working. Or if you just want to connect, our contact information is there. We'd love to hear from you. Awesome. Thanks for joining today, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck in